Hello, everybody. It is November 6, 2025, here in the United States of America. I took a little over a week off, but I'm back. I do address some issues here at home. I have a major home repair project to do. I had to prepare for that and been very busy with work. It needed a little time to get some things done and recharge, but I'm back. And tonight I would like to talk about the Republican Party and why the Republican Party, despite being given a mandate to manage the country and fix things, continues to flounder. And it seems like every time the Republican Party is given some kind of mandate due to the perception that the Democratic Party is too radical and inept to run the country in a coherent and reasonable way, why every time they're given the opportunity to show that they can run the country competently, they fail miserably. I've said this to other people, and I'll say it here. Here's the truth, and this is how bad it is with American politics now. If the Democratic Party would drop certain parts of their platform, like extreme social activism, embracing certain ideologies that are actually very unpopular with most Americans, that are very unpopular with many people actually outside of Western Europe and the United States, if they would adopt more reasonable positions on these things, if they would stop treating abortion like it's some kind of moral good, if they would have a reasonable border policy, frankly, if they would actually just return to the Democratic Party platform of, say, the late 80s, early 90s, their party would be unassailable. The Republican Party wouldn't be able to compete because the Democratic Party would have a much better message on things like student loan debt, the housing crisis, wealth inequality. They've always tended to do better on these things than Republicans. Republicans have always had the reputation of being about big business and the big guy first. And the Republicans have been given the chance to become the populist party, the party of the people, the party that is now in the position to address things like healthcare reform in a meaningful way, to address the housing crisis, to address the student loan debt crisis, to have a foreign policy that is not aggressive and expansionist and interventionalist, a foreign policy that focuses on the borders of the United States of America. And it's been given the chance to finally do that. And many people assumed, because of this upwelling of populism within the Republican Party, within the MAGA movement, that would be enough to push the party in that direction, because the party needs those people to vote for them to stay in power. So it was assumed that the momentum that President Donald Trump carried into the last election would actually finally transform the party into the party that I think many Americans sitting in the middle and on the right actually want it to be, a real America First party, but in a way that's actually healthy for the country. And well, it turns out, it would appear to most people, that the old guard of the Republican Party, the neocons, the Republican establishment, still very well entrenched within the party and still very hell-bent on continuing boomer con neoconservatism of the 1980s. Military interventions, tough posturing with everybody, pull yourself up by your bootstraps economics, and that doesn't really resonate in an era where the average young person can't afford to buy a home because houses are too expensive. And I'll just give everyone an example here. Where I live at, houses used to routinely sell for less than $90,000 for a pretty decent house, maybe with a little bit of land. It was fairly cheap to live where I live at now. Houses, again, were affordable if you wanted to move outside of the city a little bit, find a cheaper place to live, get a little bit of land and a nice house. This was the prime place to do it. There are houses now where I live at that are going for $300,000 in an area with fairly low income. No one can afford these houses. A $300,000 house in an area where houses used to sell for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. It's insane. And this isn't being addressed by Republicans because their solution is, well, just find a better paying job. That doesn't resonate with the people. Okay, when you have a political party, they want you to govern the country, run the country competently, fix these issues, find real pragmatic solutions to these problems. And the Republican Party, again, doesn't seem really willing to do these things. Everybody still seems to be stuck in this the left and right political dichotomy, like certain things can't be addressed in certain ways because, well, that's what leftists believe. We can't do that. We can't address the student loan debt crisis because why should I help pay off your debt that you took out? That's not my responsibility. Well, that's all well and good, but the problem is when you have a fairly large percentage of the young population who will have no purchasing power because they're saddled with debt they can't default on because they were talked into taking out predatory loans to attend college to get a job that they were told they needed to succeed in life, and that becomes a major problem. And it doesn't matter if you talk about how, well, I shouldn't have to pay for it because I didn't take out the loan. Well, what happens then when that bubble bursts, when that all comes crashing down? What do those people do? How does the government make that money back? Do we have any real solutions to this outside of something an old boomer would say? And no offense to old boomers, but again, like, this isn't the 1980s. This country's economy is not what it once was. Nobody has the purchasing power that they once had. And the unfortunate thing about student loans, and I'm not going to harp on this for too long, is many of these kids actually did go to school for degrees that seemingly held value. It wasn't all gender studies. That's some people did go for gender studies and things like that and paid an exorbitant amount of money for a useless degree, yes, but not everybody. Just give everyone a little story. So when I was in college, I went to a fairly small university called West Liberty University in West Virginia. While I was there, no, I don't owe an exorbitant amount of money. I owe an amount of money that I could reasonably pay back. Thank God, because this college was somewhat cheap. But anyways, while I was there, I had a student advisor. And I brought it up to him. I said, well, I'm concerned about student loan debt. I have to pay all this back. I'm not really sure about continuing my education. What should I do? And his immediate response was, well, that's a Fox News conspiracy theory. Stop listening to Fox News. None of that matters. You need to get your education. Basically talking me into, well, just keep putting yourself in debt. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Because he benefits from that. Because the more money that school receives from tuition, the more money he makes, the more secure his job is. And this happens all across the country. So don't act like these kids knew what they were really getting into when they signed these loans. Oftentimes, they're talked into taking these loans out because it seems like a nice, because they're given a very rosy picture of being able to pay back these loans. And many people end up in very unfortunate circumstances over loans they can't pay back. And the Republicans haven't addressed this in any kind of meaningful way because they don't know how to. Healthcare, for example. Healthcare costs are through the roof. There's $280 billion in medical debt that Americans have altogether accumulated. Well, maybe not billion, but 280 million, maybe something like that. It's some astronomical number. How does that get paid back in an economy where our purchasing power is dropping? How do we actually reform this healthcare system in any kind of meaningful way? It's not a moral good, I believe, that people are profiting off of other people being sick. That hospitals are for profit, okay? That insurance companies exist to make a profit. That's not a moral good. And you have these weird materialistic Republicans that kind of worship capitalism in a way that they treat it like a religion, where it's a moral good that people make money from other people, from them being sick, from falling and breaking their arm. It's a good thing that they're charged this much money. What? That doesn't resonate with young people anymore. It doesn't. Maybe in the 80s, when insurance was affordable, you could get away with saying that, but it's not. Things are different now. And also, too, with our foreign policy, Americans genuinely want to be out of all foreign wars. We don't want to give money to Ukraine. We don't want to be involved in Central Asia, trying to out-compete or maneuver with Russia and China and other countries. We don't care. None of this matters to Americans anymore. And I mentioned in another video too, we live in a fortress, and everybody knows it. We have every resource we could possibly imagine. We don't need to be in these places. And we're just tired of spending the money to do it. When our infrastructure sucks, it's crumbling. This healthcare issue is not getting worse. The student loan debt crisis isn't going away anytime soon. Our cities are falling apart. And again, Republicans got a chance to address these things in a meaningful way, and they didn't do it. $40 billion to Argentina to bail them out. I'm not going to get into the issues within the Middle East. I have my opinion on those, but they're just fumbling the ball, it would seem. And what the Republican Party needs to do is actually turn into a party that can find real, pragmatic, populist solutions to our country's major problems. Or like this election that just happened, where the mayor of New York is now Zohran Mamdani. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Okay, he's apparently a democratic socialist. Why did he appeal so much to the youth? Why? What did he say? That, again, like they always blame these candidates. Oh, he's a socialist. He's a this. He's a that. Okay, well, what was he saying? Why did people want to vote for him? You know, what was he promising? Is he promising something other than what you're promising? Is he promising to address the problems that the current party holding power is failing to address? You know, until Republicans actually start addressing the issues that are facing this country in a meaningful way, instead of just, you know, scoring points on people being woke, or, you know, memes and saying funny things on social media, and, you know, and it's not. People want real governance. They want real leadership, and they feel like both parties in this country cannot offer that. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. If neither political party can competently govern this country or come up with a plan to realistically fix our issues, there will be an American Caesar eventually. The population will turn to a singular powerful figure to try to fix this country. Once people's lives become worse and people start to struggle more and more, they'll start caring less and less and less about the democratic process, and they'll just want results. And that can go one of two ways. It can either turn out fairly good, like Augustus and the early days of the Roman Empire, or things could go very sideways, like Napoleon and maybe some other leaders from the 1930s and 40s. Either things are fixed and the ship is steered correctly and things get better, or it's a disaster. One of the two. I don't know which one it's going to be, but either way, if neither faction of this country, the political body of this country, can effectively manage to govern the country, and if they can only govern from their own ideological standpoint and can't adopt real pragmatic solutions to things, then the country's just going to become more and more unstable, and just the incompetence in our America's ruling elite is just, it's kind of astounding. And I think one of the reasons why is all these people coasted to get to where they're at. They didn't really have to fix anything major. They didn't really have to rebuild anything from the ground up. Like, none of them have actually really accomplished much of anything at all. Like, they don't know what they're doing because they've never been challenged to actually fix anything. You know, they've had rich donors. They've kind of just coasted their way into the positions that they're in, and I think this is across both parties. They have great ideas about how to do things, but no realistic way to implement them. And many of them are so ideologically married to whatever school of thought they come from, they can't think outside of those bounds. They're stuck within it. And just to be honest here, I think neither the Republican Party platform as it exists or the Democratic Party platform as it exists is really sufficient to even run this country. It's frankly not. But anyways, that's all I want to talk about in this video tonight. I think I'll end it here. I will be back Saturday with another video, and that one will be about geopolitical affairs. This was supposed to be a Tuesday or Wednesday video, but I got delayed a day because I was busy. But typically the first video of the week is about American domestic policy or domestic affairs, and then the video on Saturday is actually about global affairs. But anyways, I will see everybody Saturday, and this weekend I also plan on doing another live stream. Take care, and God bless.